I'm here today with Jill, who's been a rock star student inside of our coaching program, the Total Life Fitness Academy, for these past few months. And Jill's going to share a little bit about her experience in the program. So Jill, first of all, just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and what you were doing before joining the program.
Sure. Howdy, everyone. My name is Jill Schaefer. As Luke said, I've been in the program for not quite a year, but getting closer to that milestone. I am originally from Hilbert, Wisconsin, which is close to Appleton area. And I've kind of bounced back and forth between living in Colorado and Wisconsin. And currently I'm living in Erie, Colorado is where I'm based out of. So I guess like in other news, I've always pretty much been an athlete my entire life. High school was one of like the early pioneers who was doing like women's lifting, played sports, cross country, basketball. And then that kind of preference just spilled over into my personal life. Like I've done a whole bunch of endurance events, primarily either with running or with triathlons.
Yeah, absolutely. So always an athlete. So now, flash forward, I think it was last September, October, obviously we originally connected. So take us through kind of what your initial thoughts were about joining the program, any hesitations that you may have had.
Sure. Yeah. So at that point, I had about a 2-year hiatus from any sort of like endurance events of substance or any sort of like regular routines. And I think what drove me to the program was that I needed a change. Like I was starting to gain weight. I just didn't feel strong in my body. And I was very busy with my job. So it's kind of like I didn't have as much personal time to plan out things or figure out what is the right type of training program for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. It can definitely be tricky when, right, you don't have, life and everything else happens. So, take us through like why did you ultimately decide to join, and what's some of the, best value you feel like you've gotten from the program?
Yeah, I felt like it was, I'm in my 40s at this point. So I wanted to recommit to my health, just prevent that sort of middle age weight gain that tends to happen for women, especially, and just reprioritize things, like get back into a healthy routine, have a better relationship with food, which, isn't perfect now, but it was worse at that particular time.
Sure. Yeah, it can definitely be important as well. So what do you feel like, have been like some of your biggest takeaways or some of the biggest benefits you've kind of gotten from joining the program?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I wasn't exactly expecting this, but I really cherish the community. So like I have a connection with some of the other individuals who are in the program. We're Facebook friends. One of these individuals like sent me kind of like a care package when one of my cats had passed away. So it was just kind of like, I think that personal connection and also accountability really was valuable for me. And in addition, like I joke about this, but I do have like Luke and Mark in my head a lot, just like different phrases that they've said or quotes that you've shared. So like, I think like that repetition of, focus on the positive, be dedicated and committed with your choices, et cetera, like all of those different things are like rattling around in my brain now. And they're really like having a good impact. Like I think of them, I'm trying to honor them, curious about some of the authors that have been recommended. All of those kinds of things are really gelling well.
Yeah, so happy to hear that you've had that like you said, that community benefit, and you've noticed the overall lifestyle benefits as well. So now, a lot of people want to know, let's share your biggest wins. So what are some of your biggest accomplishments personally since joining the program?
Sure. I wasn't at quite this weight, like right when I joined, but I was kind of hovering around there. So like before joining, I was like somewhere around 170 pounds, which is at my highest. And now I'm like roughly in like the 155 ballpark, but I have a lot more, I would say, tone to my body composition. I'm doing things that I have never done before, like tracking my food, making sure that I'm aware of what I'm consuming, and making just more dedicated choices. Like I never miss a workout at this point. And I just feel stronger in my body. I have a lot more definition, like in my midsection, and my arms are starting to get where I want them to be as well.
Yeah, that's really awesome. You've definitely been making some good, steady progress, and you're very committed when you do things. So that's awesome. So, now that you've talked a little bit about your experience in the program, for anyone else who's maybe on the fence about joining, what would you say to that person who's possibly thinking about joining our coaching program as well?
Yeah, I think it's a decision that you will not regret. One of the barriers that I, sort of encountered at first was just the price tag, and that, kind of makes sense. But a good program is going to come with a quality, and a price point that matches. So I think that that's one thing to consider, is that it is worth the investment. You're basically investing in yourself, and it is going to drive changes in your life that, well, you at one point you have to be ready to make those changes, but it's going to help you along that way. For example, like before I had interacted with Total Life Fitness, I was doing like Noom. So that's like an app that you can download on your phone, but it's very hands off. They don't prescribe workouts for you. They kind of give you a rough calorie goal, but they don't really tell you like how much protein that you're supposed to consume. They try and help tackle like the psychology of why you're making bad choices. But even that, I think, kind of happens in a silo. Whereas in this program, I mean, you can be anywhere in the country, like I'm in Colorado, but it still works. Like you have videos that are associated with your workouts, you have macro and micronutrient targets. I think it just makes it a lot more structured and doable. And then having that support and accountability, where it's like, if you miss a workout or if something happens with your nutrition, you have people who are being like, hey, what's going on? Like, are you okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really happy to hear that, and happy to have you share your experience, and I'm glad things are going well, and we'll keep rolling.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Jill.